Hello, listeners, followers, subscribers. This is Brandon Elrich. That was me playing an old, out-of-tune piano. If you'd like to hear something better, become a paid subscriber so I can afford to tune it. It was my great aunt's piano, and she died about 10 years ago, so it's been a while since it's been tuned. This episode is not about tuning pianos or music. In my first episode, I mentioned that I would talk more about my self-publishing journey, so that's what I'll do today. After high school, I had some ideas for books for a long time, and during college, I finally wrote them down. I finished one novella and showed it to one of my literature professors. She said it was very good and that I should have it published. Being a literature professor and having published one of her own felt good to have that validation. I submitted it to a traditional publishing company, well, several, and at that time it was all by mail. You'd send out your manuscript or the first chapter, the first 3 chapters. Sometimes it was just a cover letter with a short summary. It just depended on what the publishing company required. They were all different, but many of them wanted the whole thing. Then you'd wait and wait and wait. Eventually, you receive a rejection letter most of the time. It was usually a form letter stating that it wasn't right for their list at this time. No notes or suggestions or anything. I heard a quote once that was something like, "You're not ready to be published until you can line your walls with rejection letters," or something like that. I looked online for the quote, but I couldn't find it. They may have used different wording. During this waiting time, I finished another short story and started sending that one out. Eventually, I just got tired of rejection. It was depressing and just didn't seem worth the trouble. Part of that had to do with actually having depression and issues of low self-worth. So those stories sat in a folder for a few years before I decided to try self-publishing. First, I tried Amazon, mostly because it was free, quick, and easy. You could design your own cover, choose fonts and layouts, and in no time, you had a published book to sell. I hired an editor I found on LinkedIn. He did a great job, especially for the amount he charged. He wasn't perfect, but I wasn't willing to spend a lot of money when I wasn't sure the book would even sell. Part of the problem with Amazon's publishing was it didn't come with any marketing or promotional help. You could pay for ads and offer your own promotions, but I didn't find them very effective. To get it to sell, you either had to have an established audience or do a lot of self-promotion. Well, actually, even having an established audience requires a lot of self-promotion. And you know what I'm really bad at? Self-promotion. I did have a decent number of followers of my WordPress blog, but they were mainly other writers, and they weren't willing to buy my book because many of them were trying to sell their own work. I also promoted a lot on LinkedIn and Goodreads. I got several people to buy it and even leave reviews. I paid for a couple of reviews too. I'd read somewhere that a book needed to have at least 20 reviews to have any chance of getting noticed. So I worked and worked, got to that magic number of 20 reviews. I don't even know where that number came from. They were all positive, by the way. But once I stopped actively promoting it, it stopped selling. For me, partly, it was too much work. But I also didn't want to be like one of those relatives who at every family dinner tries to get everyone to sign up for their amazing Amway business. If you're not familiar, Amway was a company that sold all sorts of home products and was infamous for their pyramid scheme business model. They might have changed since then. Please don't come after me, Amway. Anyway, I then looked at other self-publishing companies. I submitted one of my books to Archway Publishing. which is the self-publishing branch of Simon and Schuster. There are many scam companies, but since this one was partnered with a well-known and trusted publishing company, I thought might be my best option. Plus, if your book does well, they can send it up to their parent company, Simon and Schuster, for better exposure. So that was another draw. And there are other self-publishing companies out there that are legitimate, but they all require an investment to cover publishing costs, and they offer editing services, some marketing, design, printing, etc., and more, depending on the quote unquote package that you choose. In the package that I chose, the editing they provided was copy editing, which is about mechanics, grammar, spelling, sentence structure. You could also pay extra for a line editor, which is more about style, word choice, syntax, emotion, that kind of thing. I didn't feel I needed the line editing, plus I was already spending a lot on everything else, more than I'm willing to admit. With each package comes a certain amount of marketing. They create a press release to your local paper and I think one other that you choose. They add your book to lists available to libraries and bookstores. You get a certain number of copies of paperback and hardbacks, things like that. I will say that they did a great job with it. The cover was fantastic. Everything was the way I wanted it. I worked with their artists to change a little some things about it that I didn't like, and they came up with almost exactly what I was envisioning, which was great. I guess I was disillusioned with how much reach their marketing would have. My family's not supportive of my writing at all, so I couldn't rely on them to help promote it. I may talk more about that subject in a future episode. So, I can't give you advice on whether or not you should self-publish. I've been thinking about self-publishing a book of poetry and short stories on Amazon because it's free, but I won't pay for a self-publishing company again. If you have the time, energy, and drive, you might do well self-publishing. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out for me. Right now, I don't have any ideas of what my next episode will be about. If you have any ideas for me, I'd love to hear them. I'd also love comments about this episode, even critiques if you have them. So, until next time, say goodbye, Zach.